Hello and welcome to another episode of That Inner Voice podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Mackenzie, the conscious living coach, owner of Lunar Spirit Wellbeing, where I am a life coach, therapist, and Reiki teacher. So, welcome back to the podcast. And if you are listening, please do subscribe, leave us a review. And if you are watching on YouTube, do not forget to subscribe and share this video. You never know who it may help. So, welcome, Vreni, today. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Sitting in
Good.
my cozy studio while it's snowing again outside. Well,
Yeah, it's snowing here in the UK because you're in Switzerland at the moment, aren't you? You live
yeah,
based in Switzerland. So, would you just, for the watchers and listeners, would you introduce yourself and tell us all a little bit about you and what you do?
yeah. So my name is Vreni Renggli. I'm from Switzerland, and I am an intuitive abstract painter. So what I do is I help busy moms express their inner self and create beautiful and harmonious artwork from it. So, and this is the thing I'm passionate about as I am a mom myself. I do have 3 little kids, and it's my passion to just support all the moms in this phase of raising kids which can be actually overwhelming.
hmm Yeah, I hear
And
you.
it's it's
I have
just my
four.
sorry.
I have four.
Oh yeah. Oh, I admire you. Yeah, it's just my passion to kind of bring harmony and beauty into their life
Mhm.
because we sometimes just crave it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love that abstract painting to help busy mums. So just tell me a little bit then about how you help the mums then, and
I'll
how would the abstract art help them?
Yeah, it's a combination of different things.
Mm.
And maybe I just quickly need to tell you how I kind of came up with this, what I do today,
Yeah.
and how I found it helping myself, and how I then went into starting to go out and talk about it and realize that there were a lot of moms that would benefit from it. So as I said, I have 3 kids, but after my second child, I became a stay-at-home mom. So I quit my job, and I expected to be just
Mm.
happy and enjoying my life as a mom and being fulfilled actually with this being a mom. And what happened was that after some months of just being that, or just, like being that stay-at-home mom, I found myself like depressed, overwhelmed, exhausted
Mhm.
in every area of my life. And it took me a while to even kind of daring to talk to my husband and
Mm.
tell him that like this is not making me happy.
Yeah.
So we were discussing like what I could do to kind of reconnect to myself and becoming that joyful, happy person again that I've been before I got my kids. And I started doing a lot of self development work. And at the same time, I realized that I had abandoned my art practice, which I
Mm.
was doing over years and years, like since I can remember. So I picked this up as well. And while I was doing my self development journey and starting to get back into or trying to get back into my creativity,
Yeah.
I realized that those things are kind of intertwined and connected. So I started experimenting with kind of what I learned in the self development world or self development tools and methods to kind of infuse them into my art because I was very frustrated with my art. I was not able to create like beautiful, harmonious artwork anymore, which I did before. So I realized that my art was a really direct reflection or just mirroring what was going on inside of me.
Uh-huh.
So this is how I started my own journey. And I found a way to kind of connect what I learned in self-development into my art, and now have a actually really simple process that I go through to release what's inside of me and expressing those feelings and emotions which I'm not really able to express in words. So you mentioned that you're a writer. I do have difficulties expressing myself through words.
Okay.
So I found this process for myself to go through this. And after doing this for me, it's almost 7 years. I started kind of working with this. I started talking to other moms about the meaning behind my art, about how I create those pieces. And I realized that a lot of them were like, oh, I'd love to do this. I think this could benefit me. So this is how I then started just experimenting with how could I walk another person through this process? Or is it possible that they kind of also are able to access that inner world and express it? And I found that it's possible, which really excited me. And then we came to that point where they were like, okay, now I have this ugly scribbles. So what do I do with them? And there were a lot of friends there, like I've been an artist all my life. So I had friends who were artistic as well. They started working on their lines. And then I had friends who were not artistic at all. And they were like, I can't transform this into beauty. So I said, well, let's see if I can. And this is how I started doing what I do today, where I guide women, moms in particular, through this process to express their emotions on a paper. And I then transform those lines into a harmonious artwork.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what's the transformation process then for the mums?
The transformation process is actually really surprising, or it was surprising for me in the beginning, because I got those lines and I kind of felt into those lines and transformed them into harmonious artwork. And I was not expecting that it would have such a tremendous effect on my client.
Okay.
Because when I handed over those paintings, we realized by talking about the process I went through with the lines and colors and shapes, those things actually relate to what's going on in their life. And when they put it up in their home, when we talked, like some of them, or the first people I worked with were people close to me in my network. So I talked to them from time to time, and they were telling me, that this artwork is kind of influencing their life, because every time they look at it, they get reminded about what's going on and like where it started with this ugly scribbles and what was finally coming out of it. So it kind of gave them this outlook of the possibility. It opened them up for kind of believing in the fact that there could be a more colorful or joyful version of what was going on at the moment.
Okay, I think I get it now. So you would draw like the lines on the paper or paint them, so the messy lines, and then you would add color and details and make it into an art piece of art.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the first lines, they are actually drawn by the client themselves. So they really do it on a piece of paper. It's not me drawing the first lines. It's kind of a co-created artwork then, so they really do the first lines. And then the transformation is done by me.
Mhm.
And I do have some examples here. I don't know if it makes sense to show them to
Oh,
you.
yes, yes, please.
So
Yeah,
for
so if you're
people
listening,
listening, they just have to go and
yeah,
see it on YouTube.
if you are listening, yeah, come over to YouTube and have a look at the video.
So this is
Aha.
a
So
paper
this
I
is,
get from a client. So this is what my client produced
mhm,
on the piece of paper,
yeah.
which is really, I have to say that they draw with eyes closed. So
Ah,
it's really, you don't need any artistic skills to do this.
yeah.
It's really a tool of self-expression. It's not
Mhm.
about creating anything beautiful.
Yeah.
So the fi- final artwork then.
Oh, wow.
So this is what
Ah,
I created from those lines.
I
So
see.
when you look closely, you find the lines,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's really transformed. It's
Mm,
not just colored in.
mm,
So
that's
this is
beautiful, yeah. So it's taking something messy and making it beautiful.
absolutely,
Mm,
and it's also, it's starting wherever you are
mhm,
and making it beautiful. I think
mm,
this is something I often see with moms, that they think that where they are now, it's not possible to change, or it's not
mhm,
possible to make it better.
yeah. And
And this,
it's for me, I feel like there's some message here that needs to be talked about more, because for me, when I mean, I had my first daughter, she's going to be 20 this year. And it was amazing. I was in a really good place. I followed all the birthing books and everything like that. And it was, although there were some ups and downs, it was actually beautiful. And I really took to motherhood. I loved it. And I was very present. But when I had my second daughter, I got postnatal depression. And then there was two of them. It was like,
I
and
see.
I really and my relationship broke down and I really lost myself. But then I was like, well, because of the postnatal depression, why am I not really happy? Why am I feeling like I want to escape all the time? It wasn't anything to do with the personalities of my children. It wasn't them. It was within me,
Yeah.
and hormones and situations, circumstances, and everything. But I don't find that it's talked about that much. That the struggles of motherhood and the guilt that you get when you want to escape from it and you
When you're
want your
not
old age.
happy, that's that this was kind of standing in the way for me to talk to my husband first.
Mm, mhm.
It's that guilt of, like, everything seems perfect and it is what I wanted, or what I said what I want before I had it. So now I kind of have everything and I'm complaining.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because it's like, then I just started feeling like, oh, well, there's people that can't have children. And there's, people that are still going through fertility problems, people that have lost their children. Um, and I felt like what my feelings were not valid
Yeah.
and that I shouldn't be having them and that I was a horrible person for and ungrateful for having those feelings, which then they get suppressed, don't they?
Yeah.
And then they come out,
It's
either
even worse.
explosively or they just kind of ruin you internally, and you start to go down that spiral of depression that I did. So how was it then how did you feel when you finally voiced that to your husband then?
It was really difficult for me because I was not able to put it into words.
Right.
And he kind of kept asking, so what do you want?
Oh.
Like, what's the problem? What are you looking for? And I had no answer at that time.
Mm,
So it really took me to learn that process through my art for myself, to be able to express it. And then also when I work on my art, it kind of helps me getting insights and understanding what's going on inside of me.
Mm.
It helps me putting it into words and kind of translating it for my husband.
Because sometimes we don't know what we need. We don't know what we want. And that's okay, not knowing.
Yeah.
Mm. And it's I often hear like people say, you must know what you want, you must know, what you need. But then when you're in that energy, you're like, well, I actually really don't know right now. And that I
Yeah.
think normalizing that is good. Normalizing not knowing and normalizing not knowing what you need or not knowing where you what direction you want to go in, and just being in that moment and allowing yourself to feel all those feelings until you can process it.
Yeah. I think especially when you become a mom,
Mm,
let's see how I can express this. Like when I became a mom, when I'm looking backwards now,
mm,
I did not realize this in the moment because I was so busy learning
mhm,
all those new things.
yeah,
But when I look back, I kind of see that when you become a mom, you kind of lose part of your identity.
that's
You can't be the same person you've been before because you have this child around, you need to care for it. Your whole life is changing.
mhm,
So then you kind of have to fill in that part with something new.
mhm,
And in that moment when you're so busy and stressed out and just overwhelmed with all
mm,
those new things you have to handle,
yeah,
what happened for me was that I kind of filled in that role of a mom with everything I just knew from my mom, or what kind of society was showing me what
mhm,
they expected.
mhm,
So I did not fill in this consciously with what I wanted,
mm,
but just with what I thought was expected from me, or what I just have seen doing my mom, doing my grandma, doing
mhm,
other women around,
mhm,
without questioning it and without really asking, is this what I want? Is this what makes me happy?
yeah, mm. And yeah, we so often lose parts of ourselves trying to be like or to please other people.
Yeah.
And then that's where we lose ourselves even more, isn't it? Because you're not handed a book to say this is how you do motherhood, and it looks different for everybody. Although we can come together as mothers, as women, as parents, and share our collective experiences, but there isn't just one way to be a mum, and I think you've got to find what works for you, your children, and your family, and not worry about like what other people are doing with their family, if you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
find what works. Mm,
I think it's what you said, like there is no book that says like this is how you do motherhood. And
mhm,
I'd say there are so many books that kind of um give you tips and advice.
mm,
But as long as you go outside and are just looking for an answer, you will never find what
mhm.
really truly makes you happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's hard work going inside and finding those answers inside.
Isn't it just? But it's so also it's difficult. But what's what's on the other side of that uncomfortableness is actually light and freedom and
Yeah,
awareness of self. For me personally, it's been like um, going within has then made everything on the outside so much better
yeah,
once I've got through some of those things. But I see like where mums are struggling but they don't want to speak up for fear of being judged,
yeah,
through fear of not being feeling good enough and things like that. And if you are a mum and you're watching or listening, we've all been there. We've all like wanted to walk out, or what the hell am I doing? Whose idea was it to have kids? We're like,
yes.
just go to bed. You know, what am I doing for dinner today? I'm sick of doing dinner. I'm sick of doing the housework. I'm sick of doing this.
Yeah.
Who am I? Where have I gone? You know, if you're feeling any of those feelings, honestly, there is no judgment, well, especially from me sitting here. So you reach out in the comments, reach out to either of us and just say, "Hi, I'm struggling," and it's okay.
And you know what you said? You said we've been there, and I really want to say I am still there. You know, like it's not, you don't get over it. I think it's understanding for me that I'll come back there, all the time was kind of taking the pressure away of getting over it, of finally figuring it out, of becoming that super mom, like who has it all figured out.
Who has it figured out? They're lying.
Yeah, no, you never will,
I don't believe them because I'm a single mum, and I have been through most of my time as a mum, and I do struggle still. And it's, to be honest, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do is be a mum, and I don't mind admitting that. And some days I hate it. Sorry, I do, and it's just because it there's so much pressure, um, and and there's so much pressure being on your own with children
Yeah.
because you literally everything's on you. Like, I don't want to get my little violins out, but like it's all on me. Like the house, the
Yeah.
cleaning, the cooking, the shopping. I run a business or two businesses, and I'm the only income. It's all on me. And
Yeah.
it's like when it's like that, it's like ultimate pressure, isn't it?
Yeah. And the thing is that I think that relationship with your kids, this is something you can't just walk away from.
Mhm.
It's
Mm.
it will stay with you even if you walk away. So this is kind of not an option.
Mhm.
And all the other relationships in your life, when you whatever, and you get married or when you have a partner, there is always that option of kind of breaking up.
Mhm.
But this was this huge realization when I had my kids that like this relationship is not it's not going away, like now I have this little being and I'm responsible.
Yeah. Mm. But then the other side of it, there's so much fun and joy of being a mom. I know I
Yeah.
just said I hate it, but like some days I just feel like that. It's not in a general kind of sense that I wish I wasn't a mum.
Yeah.
I then on the flip side of that, it's taught me so much about myself and about the world. Um, Being a mum is very, very rewarding. Can't speak today. Is very rewarding. And those funny moments, and sometimes you're pulling your hair out, and sometimes you just like you've got to laugh, haven't you?
Yeah,
Like the
absolutely.
funny things that come out of their mouths, like the little quirky things they do, the cuteness, that. But I found like, so tell me if you're the same. When you kind of almost at that edge, you're like, you can feel it bubbling, and then they do like something really cute, like they write you a little note, "I love you, mummy," or like, or they just come up to you and like for no reason just hug and kiss you, and it's like, okay, I've forgotten all about that now. Just this is lovely.
Absolutely. And I think that's when you said like this is an opportunity to grow as well, because this relationship is not going away. So when you're facing those challenges, I think it's always an opportunity to grow. And therefore, I think having kids, this is kind of the biggest opportunity in life you can get to really evolve as a person,
Yeah.
because you'll be forced to face it and go through it with your kids.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Um, and how old are your children then?
They are 10, 8, and almost 5 years old.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so you're a little bit ahead of me.
Yeah, well, yeah, coming up 20, nearly 17, almost 10 and 8, mine
Yeah.
are. Yeah. Big gap in the middle.
Yeah.
I started again. So going back to then like using creativity and as a way to express when words cannot. I'm a firm believer in that
Yeah.
and find it um I don't know what well fascinating, I suppose, in a way that there are other ways that we can actually express ourselves as human beings and express our emotions, not just through talking.
Yep.
Mm, mm,
Luckily, those tools exists for me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think like there was a thought popping up in my head when you was talking. When you were talking, I'm sorry. Um, Creativity, like when I started using it to really express myself,
Mm,
I had a hard time facing the ugly scribbles, what I
mm,
produce.
okay.
Because before I was creating when I felt this inspiration.
Mm,
So I was oftentimes or most of the times creating from a good state of mind, from a good mood.
mm,
So the things I created were beautiful.
mhm,
So when you said creativity as a means of expression, what I want to say to all those who listen is like when you use it as a way to express yourself, then don't put any pressure on you. Don't have any expectation of how this should look like.
mhm,
It's not about creating something beautiful in the first lines. So also what I do is really the first lines are really an expression of emotions
mhm,
without any expectations of creating something beautiful. That's also the reason why we draw with eyes closed.
mm,
Because
mhm,
your mind would interfere immediately if it
mm.
would look at that paper and would just like, oh no, that's ugly. Let's do it otherwise. And no. And you're again in this, then I think it's the same as we talked about with the social expectations on a mom, like
Mm,
you're just supposed to be happy and everything should be nice and clean and
mhm.
yeah.
Yes. Your kids should always be clean. You should always be like looking $1 million and
Yeah, all the
everything's
toys
falling
picked up
on.
and yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that was my expectation as a mum in the early years. No, not anymore.
I think I could even say every mom I talked to came to a point where she found herself frustrated with the living environment she
Mhm.
she found herself in after having kids,
Yeah.
because it's not possible to kind of live up to the standards you yourself are setting, like are putting on you.
Mhm.
And that's also why I so love my art having in my own space as well, because it's kind of like concentrated beauty
Mhm.
in the midst of the mess.
Yeah.
So and then it gives me that um it's kind of an anchor in my home for that beauty and for that
Mhm.
harmony,
Mhm.
where I can go to and just focus on while there are toys on the floor,
Mm. Yeah.
without kind of having to clean it all up, but
Yeah.
really knowing that there is this beauty, that it exists in the world, and that there is a spot in my own home where I can access it, where I can go to when I need to.
Yeah. Mhm. And that's important, isn't it? Having our own space as mums to be who we are as people, because we wear so many hats, don't we? Like as women in general, like we're the caregiver, we're the mom, we're the partner,
Yep.
we're the cleaner upper, with the we're the friend, but then we're also ourselves,
Yeah.
which is sometimes what we lose touch with, isn't it? When we're being everything to everybody else, and then we forget to have our own space and our own place within the home and within ourselves, where we can just be and
Yeah.
allow that creative energy, that energy to flow into our own being and our own space.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I I heard somebody talking lately about that. She listed out all the roles she's having in the house. She's also a homeschooling mom, and she
Wow.
said she came on about 13 different
Yeah.
roles. But honestly, I wanted to do this for my own, but I think I would have forgotten to write me on
Mhm.
that list. You know, when you said, and then yourself, I'm like, okay,
Mm,
would
mm,
I would have written like cleaner and chef and whatever, but there
yeah.
should be like me, like myself on
At the
top of it.
top.
Yes.
Yeah, I am me first and
Yeah.
foremost, and then I am these other things.
Yeah.
Mm. And that's what I see a lot
Oh,
of
that's,
women
yeah.
forget about themselves. Mums or no mums. This is just is people in general. Is that we forget about ourselves. We're so busy trying to be something that we're not. So busy trying to please other people,
Yeah.
and live as society wants us to live, and work until we can't work anymore, and we forget to just be, and to put ourselves first.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. I think something that comes up often when I talk to people, like they are all fascinated about what I do.
mm,
And then they say things like, but I don't have space in my apartment
mm,
for this artwork. And when we then, I started kind of investigating there and saying, like, but do you have space? And space is a really interesting word. Like, do you have space for yourself in your life?
mm,
So, how about making space in your apartment for yourself?
mhm,
With the intention to make space for yourself in your life.
mm. I just got goosebumps when you were saying that.
Yeah,
It's
it's
that powerful. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But when you're repeating that back to somebody, and do they be like, oh, yeah,
yeah.
actually, I don't have space for myself.
There are kind of two types of reaction.
Yeah.
The first are like they are shocked by what they just understood about themselves.
Uh-huh.
And the second is like, no, but I really don't have space. It's kind of not even considering that there is a connection between space in your apartment, in your living environment, and space for yourself in a like internal way of emotional and a mental way.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. But I love the first one when they get the realization. It's like that aha moment.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's us asking those questions, or saying these sentences sparks that awareness, and then you've sparked the start of their healing journey.
yeah. And
Mm,
like I really experienced this for myself because I abandoned my creative work when I
mm,
had my kids because I had no time left, no energy left, like it just died.
mm,
And then and we changed apartments at this time. So all the things I put up were those baby pictures and greeting cards, and like there was no artwork of mine in my apartment.
oh wow.
So it was for me also realizing this,
Yeah,
understanding it for myself that I
yeah.
don't put this person I've been before I had kids into my apartment through my art. I just didn't. And
Mm,
because I had no time and energy and yeah, was just
mm,
forgetting about it.
yeah.
So it's really like my mission to to make moms aware of this,
Yeah.
to go and check if they are still around,
Yeah. Are you making so listeners, watchers, are you making space in your life for yourself? Or are you abandoning parts of yourself?
Yeah.
Question. Answers in the comments.
Yeah, I'd love to know. I'd really love to know.
Yes, and just written down self-abandonment because that's something that I want to talk about more.
Yeah, and it's really,
mm,
there is no judgment here. If
mm,
if
mm,
you do this, or if this, let's more say, if this happened to you,
mm,
because it's happening gradually, like I think after my first kid it wasn't that bad, but then I got my second, they're like 20 months apart. So
yeah.
I was busy changing diapers, feeding kids, cleaning
Mhm.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just falling into bed in the evening, just
Yeah.
no energy left, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. And yeah, there's absolutely no judgment. And awareness and healing isn't an excuse to start judging yourself either, because sometimes we're just our own worst critics.
Yeah.
And often when we get a realization, it's like then you start the internal dialogue. Well, why didn't I know that? Why didn't I know that before? I must be stupid. I must be this. I must be that. But you're not. You
Yeah.
don't know what you don't know, and how can you change what you're not aware of? But the awareness isn't a time to start beating yourself up with a stick. Awareness is a time to say, okay, now I know this, I can act accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think there is this um how should I say, like a limiting belief or something in my head, which might come from childhood or from school or whatever, that I had kind of this um as you said, you realize that you are somewhere you don't want to be, or that you created something you don't enjoy, and kind of admitting that I am this person I don't like was like saying that I am a bad person,
Yeah.
you
Mm.
know? So it was kind of accepting or admitting that I am a bad person, to that kind of enabled me to even think about that I could change.
Mhm.
So I did not allow myself to change
Mhm.
because I would not admit that I'm a bad person, Like, so
Yeah.
it's not, you're not a bad person if you want to change, You
Yeah.
can just decide today that you want to change.
Mhm. Yeah. And something that's previously worked for you doesn't mean it's going to continue to work for you. You don't have to stay stuck in the same mindset, in the same routines, doing the same thing. It's okay to say, actually, that worked then, but it doesn't work now.
Yeah.
It's not working anymore. I need something different.
And it's not about blaming anybody,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I do have a husband, and telling him that I'm not happy was kind of triggering those conversations around, so what did I do wrong? Why do you want to change? Why aren't you happy? And I was like, ah, it was a process to kind of understand for myself and in the relationship that it's not about blaming, it's not about finding the decisions we took that kind of were wrong
Mm-hmm.
so that we ended up here. It's
Yeah.
just like, I don't like where I am, I want to change,
Mm-hmm.
without needing to justify why, or to blame, or to look for who did something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Important point is it's not change isn't like because something's totally wrong. It's just because we grow and evolve as human beings, don't we?
Yeah.
Mhm. Mm. Wow, it's been a really, really interesting conversation, and I thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure people watching and listening are going to get value out of this. And then on the podcast, I always ask 3 questions. So, and you are aware of the questions. So,
Yes.
the first question is, as it's that Inner Voice podcast, is what does your inner voice say to you?
Yes, I was looking at that question. I was like, do you mean words? Because my inner voice is not speaking with words. It's colors and lines and shapes.
Mm.
And what it says to me when it took me years to understand my inner voice.
Mm.
And it's just kind of my inner guidance.
Mm.
So when I express it through my art and go into it, I get insights about my life, like about what's happening and why it is happening, and then enables me to make decisions and change.
Yeah.
But it's not words, so it's not speaking to me.
Okay. So it's feelings and colours, shapes, rather
Yeah.
than actual a voice in the head sort of thing.
Yes, and
Mm.
honestly, for those who are listening and having a struggle hearing that inner voice, maybe it's not something you hear.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because this is what I had to understand for myself, that
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear my inner voice. When I hear a voice, it's often my mind talking, and I need to tell it, like, shut up. I'm gonna make my art and understand what's going on.
So that the inner voice then for you, or for maybe some of you other, sorry, I can't even speak today. That inner voice for you then, or maybe some other people that are listening, is more of a feeling and in intuition then.
Yes,
Mm.
it's more of a feeling,
Mm.
and it's then translated into lines and into shapes,
Mm-hmm.
which then are kind of talking to me so that I can understand it and
Yeah.
also express it. Like when I look at lines, sometimes I start working on them and I get this feeling that I should remove something or clean it out, and then I'm like, well, what are the areas in my life I do not let go of?
Mm.
So for me, it's kind of a long translation process to understand my inner voice.
Ah, I'm with you now.
Yeah.
Mine's very different because it's a lot of words, but it's also lots of feelings. So I go with my heart, and my intuition and what I feel, as well as then that internal dialogue. But yeah, that's a lot of your thinking mind, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
As well. So thank you for that. And then the second question is, what are you most excited about right now?
At the moment, I'm really excited about an art project I have going on. It's a project of 21 small paintings,
Mhm.
and it's a collaboration with a therapist friend who's working with a group of people who are having a really difficult group dynamic. So I created a piece for each person, for each individual, and I'm now transforming those individual pieces while I do kind of integrate them or merge them into a harmonious group.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting for me because I normally work one-on-one. And now when I start working on those different individuals, which seems
Mhm.
so different or seemed so different at the beginning, I start seeing like similarities or some of them like coming together. And it's actually, I have it on my Instagram and Facebook. I do those little videos where I talk about my process and show you my progress.
Mm.
And it's exciting for me as well because I do this in real time. So I don't know the outcome. It's sometimes a little bit scary.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's going on at the moment. Yeah, it's interesting.
oh,
It's kind of those
brilliant.
are
Oh, cool.
first first stages of the work.
Oh, haha.
Yeah.
Fabulous. And then the final question is, what is the best piece of advice you've been given by somebody else?
I was thinking about that question, and I would like to give a really practical advice. we've been talking about moms,
Yeah.
because the best piece of advice is not woo at all. And I've been given it when I was pregnant with my third child. And I was suffering from morning sickness for my first two pregnancies, the whole pregnancies, like 9 months and the whole day. So when I was pregnant with my third, my midwife, I had another midwife, and she said, you've got to eat every 60 minutes and you set a timer. And I just want to give this advice to everybody out there who's suffering from morning sickness and tried everything. Try
No.
this, set a timer and eat every 60 minutes.
Okay.
Just a cracker or 2 gulps of milk. And it saved my life when I was
Oh,
pregnant
wow.
with my third.
Did it
It's
actually stop the sickness?
Sorry?
Did it actually stop the sickness?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. It almost stopped the sickness. I had still sometimes when I did not feel that well, and it stopped the throwing up, and I was already happy about this.
yeah.
It really, at the beginning, I was like, well, this would not really work. And then I tried it for several days and I was like, oh, I feel so much better. So it was 11:30 and I thought like, okay, 60 minutes are over. I'm gonna wait until 12 o'clock because it's lunchtime then. And I had to throw up before lunch. And I was like, okay, no, I just set my timer and I'm just gonna eat. Even
Yeah.
if it's 10 minutes before lunch,
Yeah.
I have a cracker or something.
Yeah.
And this really also, when I woke up at night,
Mm.
I was eating something or having some milk or just a small something,
Yeah.
but it changed my life.
Oh, fab. I'm sure, yeah, let us know if you've got morning sickness and let us know if this works for you as well.
I hope so. And if
Yeah,
you know anybody who's suffering from it, just
pass
at
it on.
least try.
Yeah, pass it on. Thank you so much for joining me today, and sharing your story and having a really good chat about motherhood and being a wonderful guest on that invoice.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And I'll put all your links in the show notes as well. So if you do want to go and follow Vreni, then you can go into the links and find her there on social media. And
Yes.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And that was another episode of that Inner Voice podcast. And do join me again next time. Do not forget to subscribe so you do not miss an episode. And that is all from me today. Thank you so much. That was another episode of That Inner Voice. Do join me next time on the next episode. Bye for now.